Mark Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, I stand in this House today to make a statement. Late last year, my family had been at a property in my electorate where my stepson had been testing his rally car in preparation for competing in his father's memorial rally. Later that evening, my wife Peggy and I attended a barbecue at the same property. While there, I was confronted by Mr Kim Dotcom, who was also a guest. I could only describe the conversation as chilling. Direct threats were made by Mr Dotcom towards our Prime Minister. He stated that he could and would destroy the Prime Minister and that he already had members of our Parliament working with him to achieve this. We left immediately. Because I'd had many years of dealing with and being exposed to violent and intimidatory people, I didn't immediately recognise the seriousness of the situation. But sadly, in our vehicle with my wife, it was obvious that she was shaken and the nature of the threats had frightened her. I didn't believe Mr Dotcom's claims that members of our New Zealand Parliament were actively collaborating with him. A good opposition's job is to challenge the government, to ensure the ministers remain laser-focused on their portfolios, to challenge policy ideas and to present an alternate government. I watched in amazement as it became apparent that members of Parliament were collaborating with Mr Dotcom at his mansion in Coatesville. I felt that a sinister corner had been turned for the first time in our country's history when opposition parties appear to have given up on challenging our Prime Minister through debate and policy ideas and have instead turned to assisting Mr Dotcom in his mission to destroy the Prime Minister. Every time one of the opposition MPs drove into that Dotcom mansion, they were driving past people and being served by people who were scared, who hadn't been paid, who were struggling to support their own families. Imagine what they were thinking when they saw our country's political leaders bowing down to that same person.
Order.
Where could they turn to for help? When the country's political leaders appeared to be in the back pocket of Mr Dotcom. Is it true that Mr Dotcom tasked Labor with the further development of an IT policy he'd been working on? Come to this House and tell us. Is it true that Mr Norman, leader of the Green Party, was tasked with challenging his extradition to the United States? Come to this House and tell us. Is it true that Mr Peters was given questions by Mr Dotcom to bring to this House to attack our Prime Minister? Come to this House and tell us. I've now had time to reflect on the abusive behaviour of Mr Dotcom at the function that I attended in my electorate last year. The violence of the threats towards our Prime Minister have not left me, and today I felt it was important to place these matters on the record in this House. I believe the people of this country are beginning to question the real motives of Mr Dotcom. That's right. From my own experience, he is a man who uses threats and intimidation on people to get what he wants. I wait to see what the next instruction or order given from the Dotcom mansion is to members of this House. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, I'd just like to remind you, because I thought you might have got to your feet, that it is out of order to suggest that any member is directed by an outside party. That is exactly what that member just did, and normally the Speaker is very protective of the rights of members of the House in that area.
Actually, the member is right, It is not in order, and I quote Speaker's Ruling 50(4), it is not in order to say dictated to, dominated by, or received instructions by, and it's Speaker Barnard, so it's a long one. So you're quite right. You're quite right, Mr Mallard. And he's old as you are, is he? The member's quite right. So I would just say to the member that it's not in order to indicate that members of the House are involved in that.